Hi guys, welcome to the first episode of might be the last episode ever to Cholish Critiques. I'm Cholo Ferlino and we have our special guest here.
Hello, I'm Tyler Schroeder.
So for the film that we analyzed and watched, it's La La Land from 2016 by Damien Chazelle. Do you know any of the major actors?
Yeah, Emma Stone, Ryan Gosling, also John Legend is in it as well.
Really?
As Keith.
Oh, right. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I said John Legend. Fun fact, we both actually work at our local theater at Woodstock, Illinois. Guys, if you're around, please pop out. Show up.
Classic Cinemas, Woodstock.
Classic Cinemas, yeah. Anyways, okay. For one of the first concepts that we're going to be talking about is the round versus flat characters. And essentially, we'll start off with Mia as an individual character. Do you want to start off? What do you think of?
Yeah, I think Mia is pretty obviously round. Where I feel like Sebastian is a little bit more nuanced, whereas as Mia is, or at least like nuanced on like whether he's flat or round. But like I feel like Mia is very obviously round because she was an aspiring actress that primarily thought of herself as like a barista and also an aspiring actress, as opposed to like Sebastian, who thought of himself as like a professional musician. And then she's convinced to chase her dreams, so she has that character shift in terms of like she's gonna like actually start writing her one woman play, and she's gonna chase her dreams, and she starts to believe that she can actually do it. And then she has that whole shift after nobody comes to her play and Sebastian misses it, and she's or not nobody comes to her play, but like very few people. It's like 6 people or something, and they said it was like bad, like she heard them talking and they said it sucked, that she kind of gives up on her dreams, and then she finds out that she has an opportunity to audition for a really big director and film a movie in Paris, and she does, and it kind of comes full circle, and then she like actually like realizes her dream of being a famous actress, and she's able to do it.
Yeah, and I would say Mia is obviously like a round character, and for an example, at the beginning of the film, she like talks about how she hates jazz, It's such a strong comment, and Seb takes it seriously. But midway through the movie, she says she likes jazz now, and by the end of it, she loves jazz. So just by that, going through the relationship and all that, she manages to kind of change her own interests for Sebastian, and I think hate to love is such a strong change for a character just like Mia. Yeah. All right, and for Sebastian now, it took me like an hour and 10 into the movie to say that he is a round character, because like with that time he comes off as very arrogant or nonchalant in a sense that not until Keith shows up and introduces him into the band, and even then it takes him a while to like kind of fit into this new type of jazz that's in play. And so by that time he actually does kind of change, but as we find out, it's not really what he wants in a sense. So we can still kind of argue that Sebastian may or may not be a flat character, but I would say he does have some qualities that would land him to a round character at that.
Yeah, I agree I agree that he would be a round character, because again, he was the one that convinced Mia that she could like really do what she wanted to do. That's how he believed, or that's how he always thought that he could be own a jazz club and be a he always viewed himself as a professional musician, but like that he could own a jazz club and be that kind of person. And then you see him kind of settling and almost starting to convince himself that like this is what he wants, to be in this famous band. And something that really stuck out to me in the movie was when he talked about how like he wants people to know him and people to like him and stuff. And Mia, she points out, she said like, when have you ever cared about that? And like this is like a line when Mia's talking about like early in the movie that she doesn't know if people are gonna like her play, and Sebastian, he's like, fuck them. And then Mia's like, you always say that. So it's like you go to this character who's always saying that he doesn't care about what people think, talking about now like in terms of like trying to convince himself that this is what he actually wants to do to cope with the fact that he might not be able to own his own jazz club and follow his dream, you know, saying that he cares about what people think. And then, you know, fast forward to the end of the movie, he actually does own his own jazz club and he actually is doing what he wants to do.
I'd agree with that. And yeah, okay, we'll move on to the mise en scène, and we'll focus on more so the costumes, and really also like the lighting that's used in the film. Do you want to start off? Your thoughts on it?
I mean, yeah, you know, there's a lot of really bright colors used, and a lot of, red, blues, and yellows, and also greens.
Okay.
So a lot of primary colors, and then also a lot of green in there. And I thought that there was an interesting contrast between, I feel like Sebastian, you know, when he went out, like he was usually wearing like either like lighter, like more muted colors, or like more neutral tones, like browns and whites. Whereas Mia was always in something that really popped on the screen. So
yeah, I think there is some interpretation up there. My take on it was he did mention at the start, you know, everyone is pretty much wearing bright colors, you know, even more notably like Mia, right? But then also Sebastian. In this one scene where like they were in a like backyard party, you know, you see Sebastian wearing those bright red leather jacket, you know. And what that means to me was at the beginning of the film, you know, shows their naivety, you know, how immature they still are, right? But then as we go through the movie, let's say, you know, once they start dating, Mia is kind of seen with like a lavender type of, you know, colors.
Pinks
and
well.
At that point, it's kind of like, you know, mixed now. If you think about it, you know, red, blue, lavender. Guys, come on. But anyways, it kind of shows that they've kind of matured a little bit, you know. They kind of know what they want, but not really, you know, as we go through the movie. But then fast forward to the ending, you know, we see Mia, you know, kind of the similar scene in the beginning. She walks into the coffee shop, you know, 5 years later, she's wearing a black dress with kind of, I don't know, spider web like patterns on her dress. And that, I think, is just like the peak of her, you know, maturity. Like, she's gotten everything that she wanted. And with that, you know, with Sebastian as well, once he joins Keith's band, it's like there's a scene where he's getting tailored and, you know, his suit's like fully black, you know, kind of less, not even bright at all, you know, just completely black. And yeah, I think that shows overall how mature they are in certain times of the film. Do you have any interpretations you think?
I think that you covered a lot of good points, and I think you have a lot of valid opinions.
Yeah. But obviously, you know, to each their own.
Yeah, it's up to interpretation for sure.
And yeah, me personally, I enjoyed the movie. I would have to give it a 5 out of 5. You know, if we're going off Letterboxd, 5 out of 5 stars. I highly.
Yeah, I would agree. I thought it was pretty peak, so I would say 5 out of 5 as well.
Well, that's gonna be our first and maybe the last episode of Choice Critiques. Alright, guys. Well, thank you for listening. We're gonna be up in Spotify, YouTube.
We're actually on that.
All right.